Today, we're going to talk about the slow muscle up. Ooh, here's cracks. It's a really cool skill that requires a lot of strength, and that leads us into probably the most important part of learning a slow muscle up, which is having a strong foundation. And I believe there's three pillars to that. First, we have our pulling strength, which is going to come down to pull-ups. Second is tricep strength, and that's going to help us transition over the bar. And lastly, the false grip, which just gives us the leverage necessary to transition over the bar. Pull-ups, there's no magical number, but I'm going to give you one, which is 10. You need to be able to do 10 slow controlled pull-ups all the way up, all the way down. That's just going to show that you have a decent amount of pulling strength. And if you can do that, you're probably going to have an easier time trying to learn the slow muscle up. Now triceps, this is a bit of a fun one. I mean, if you have access to a gym, you can obviously do tricep extensions, things like that. But since this is more calisthenics based, we're going to use our body weight. The most beginner friendly tricep exercise that you can do is probably just tricep dips. So if you have a bench or a chair, anything like that, lean on the box or the chair and go down and press back up using your triceps. Really easy, really simple. That's just a beginner exercise. The most important one is what I call bodyweight skull crushers. The lower to the floor, the harder it's going to be. You can do it on the floor, but I'd recommend using a low object just so that you have a bigger range of motion. Your hands going to go on the object. Make sure the full hand is on, not that you're just holding by your fingers. You're going to try keep your elbows nice and tucked, body straight like you're doing a plank. And then from there, once you're nice and compressed, use your triceps to push yourself back. Boom. Just like that. Try find an object that's relatively low to the ground and build it up. I would also say aim for 10 bodyweight skull crushers. The last thing to touch on is the false grip. You're trying to get as much of your hand over the bar so you have maximum leverage. It's really painful in the beginning and can feel very uncomfortable. The only way to make it feel easy and more comfortable is to practice being in that position. You don't have to start hanging with your full body weight. You can start with doing assisted hangs on this sort of bar, which is quite low to the floor. An assisted hang would be something like this. So I can bend my legs. I'm still taking a lot of my body weight and I'm trying to keep my wrists in that false grip position. I just want to reiterate how important it is to focus on building your strength, because like I said before, if you're strong in the relative areas, you're going to have a much easier time learning the slow muscle up. Don't rush that step. But now the fun stuff. So there's three main things that I did, and then there's one very important cue that just helped everything click for me. The three things we're going to focus on is negatives, transition dips, and lastly tempo reps. And then I'll get into the cue right at the end. So negatives, awesome exercise and great for exposing certain parts of your body like your wrist and forearms to the intense pressure when you're going through that transition in a slow muscle up. You're going to start at the top of a dip, then lower yourself down. Make sure you hang your chest on the bar so you can literally like airplane. Lean forward, then set in your false grip. Try to stay as close to the bar as you can and squeeze for dear life as you're going down, and then lower all the way down to the bottom of a hang position. Start at the top of the dip, chest over the bar, set my false grip, squeeze tight, 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 and all the way down to hang. When you're starting out, it'll probably look something like this. I'll show you from the side, where you aren't able to control yourself as well and you're going to transition pretty fast and then catch yourself. You come down, you still hang over the bar, but then when you go to the transition, you fall and then you're able to catch yourself. The more you practice and you focus on the right aspects, which is setting in your false grip, staying tight to the bar and trying to be slow, you will move through that transition a little bit slower over time. So just keep practicing that, but it's a great exercise to start out. Once you feel like you're getting decent and have relative control in that negative, you can start incorporating what I call transition dips, where you're going to enter that transition for a little bit and then go back into a regular dip. I go bottom of the dip, I rock back into the transition and pull myself back to a dip. If you find yourself going to the point where you like almost top of the chest in line of the bar, then you pretty much can do the slow muscle up, and we can start focusing on the technique from going from the bottom. Beginner starting out, it might look something like this, which is completely fine. You just rock back a little bit and then try pull yourself back. Again from the side, set the false grip, try rock back. Pressure becomes too much and push back. You can also think of it as partial range of motion reps, but it's just great for starting to actually build strength in that transition phase. And now onto the last one, which is tempo reps. So before we do that, we need to just understand some technique elements. It's very important to understand the concept of pulling around the bar and not into the bar. If you do a regular pull-up technique, you're going to smash your chest into the bar and there's going to be no space for you to go. I'm pulling myself into the bar and I'm way too low and there's no room for me to actually go around and transition into the muscle up. You need to pull around the bar, and you do that by leaning back a little bit. You need now tricep and back strength to get that height, to get your chest over the bar. So if you lean back too far, which some people do, they think they need a lot of space, you're gonna go, and yeah, the balance, everything's just gonna be thrown off completely. You need to find that sweet spot of giving yourself a little room to go around the bar, but still staying tight and strong. A bit of space, chest goes over, and there we go. That's just the technique element, and it's also something that it like clicks in your brain over a certain amount of practice sessions and attempting to do it. Even if you understand the technique down to a T, sometimes it just takes a bit of physical IQ, which means the more you do it, the better you get at the movement, and you can actually execute the technique that you know. But tempo reps, very simple. We're gonna add speed and momentum, which makes the transition easier. And then over time, you're gonna try to take away that speed and momentum. This is what a speed rep would look like, or tempo rep. Exact same starting position as a slow muscle up. We're just gonna pull fast instead of slow. And it makes the transition like, I don't know, 5-10 times easier. Boom. When it comes to developing strength, that's probably what helped me the most. But then the cue that made everything click. And this isn't like a magical just piece of information, but if you're strong enough, it was literally for me, which is thinking of just lifting the elbows up. When you get into that transition phase, I used to always think like I'm pulling as much as I can, I'm squeezing, trying to get my chest over the bar. But as soon as I heard this cue of just lift your elbows up, it made the transition feel simple. When I get to this transition phase at the top, right, I just think from here, I need to lift my elbows. And by thinking lifting my elbows, I just start transitioning, and I think I'm just able to use the muscles appropriate better. Nope, that doesn't make sense. I'm able to use the appropriate muscle groups better. From the other side angle, I start pulling, and when I get to the top, I just think, oh, I need to lift my elbows. And then it just happens. Yeah, that was the cue that really clicked for me, but it doesn't just magically give you the strength necessary to do it. It just helps you understand the transition a bit better. That is my tutorial for how to do a slow muscle up, what I recommend focusing on. I hope it really helps you. As always, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I will get back to you. All the best, good luck with your training and enjoy.